what is AUKUS? Now, I've seen this popped up more than once on my own curated news feed, and so I've been doing a little bit of a dig, and I just think it's part part it's important for us as part of our media, digital, and political literacy to know about these things going on. So, AUKUS, launched by three countries in 2023, is part of their efforts to push back against China's growing power in the Indo Pacific region. China has called the AUKUS Pact dangerous and warned it could spur a regional arms race. And if that's the case, very recently, there seems to be a little bit more activity in this space, which is I thought was necessary to cover it. So we're going to look at three articles. We're going to look at the FT, we're going to look at the Guardian, and then Reuters, just to get some information into the situation. Sorry, that was right. That was really crap. Really crap. My bad. So AUKUS weighs expanding security pact to deter China in Indo-Pacific. US, UK, and Australia to announce talks White House hopes will lead to Japan joining defense alliance. They want Japan to join. The US, UK, and Australia are to begin talks on bringing new members into AUKUS as Washington pushes for Japan to be involved in the security pact aimed as a deterrent against China. The AUKUS defense ministers will announce on Monday that they will launch talks related to Pillar 2 of the alliance, which involves collaboration on technologies such as undersea capabilities and hypersonic weapons, according to people familiar with the situation. They are not considering expanding Pillar 1, which focuses on Australia's procurement of nuclear-powered submarines. The statement will come just before US President Joe Biden hosts Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for a summit at the White House on Wednesday and a historic US Japan Philippines trilateral meeting on Thursday. The US and Japan will on Wednesday announce that they are planning the biggest upgrade to their security alliance since 1960. We need to pay attention to this kind of thing. Why? It sort of tells us what's going on behind the scenes, but this is obviously front of scene because it's there in the press, but who's really going to be paying attention to this, right? The AUKUS pledge to begin consultations on expansion is a compromise between the allies after some US officials pushed for Japan to join AUKUS formally as a member. When AUKUS was launched in 2021, there was talk about others joining Pillar 2 at some point. As a critical ally in Asia for each member, Japan was a natural candidate for what was dubbed JAWKUS. As Japan increases its defense spending, for example, it is investing more in developing hypersonic weapons. Bringing in other partners would also help spread the cost of developing the technologies. Speculation had mounted that Tokyo would be asked to work on Pillar 2, particularly after US Ambassador to Tokyo, Rahm Emanuel, this week said Japan was about to become the first additional Pillar 2 partner. Some in the US government privately welcomed his intervention, hoping that it would add momentum to bringing Japan into AUKUS, but his comments ruffled feathers from the White House to London, Canberra, and Tokyo because there was no agreement. Emmanuel did not respond to requests for comment. Australia and Britain had for months been pushing back against the idea of inviting Japan at this point, partly because they want to focus on ironing out existing complications in their trilateral cooperation. Kurt Campbell, the US Deputy Secretary of State and an advocate for Japanese involvement in AUKUS, this week said the US was separately doing development and co-production with both the UK and Australia, but that how we trilateralize some of that over time is challenging. The UK and Australia are also concerned, as are many in Washington, that Japan still lacks the security systems required to protect highly sensitive information. Campbell appeared to concede that Tokyo had more work to do, saying the US had been urging it to take measures. Japan has taken some of those steps, but not all of them, Campbell said at an AUKUS event at CNAS, a think tank in Washington. Canberra stresses a need to focus on the submarine program before expanding AUKUS by adding countries to Pillar 2. And three still agree that getting Pillar 1 locked in is the priority, said one person familiar with the discussions between the AUKUS allies. Okay, so they want the submarines, yo. Okay. The issue has sparked much debate between the allies and inside the US administration. At one point, there was an idea to have Biden, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, and UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak issue a joint statement to generate more impact, but they ultimately opted to have the defence ministers announce the move. The AUKUS statement will potentially pave the way for Biden and Kishida to include an aspirational reference about future Japanese involvement in the joint statement they will issue after their summit. There's also been debate in Japan. While Tokyo has been a strong supporter of AUKUS, some officials have been cautious about pushing too hard to be included given the divisions within the AUKUS countries. In an interview with the FT and other media on Friday, Kishida said no formal decision had been made on how Japan would cooperate with AUKUS in the future. To achieve a free and open Indo-Pacific, we would like to continue various efforts to strengthen our cooperation with the US, Australia, and the UK, who are important partners in security and defense, he said. In The Guardian, there's quite a critical piece about AUKUS that I think is worth us looking at. And this has a headline of Poison Portal. US and UK could send nuclear waste to Australia under AUKUS, inquiry told. Labour describes claims as fear-mongering and says government will not accept waste from other nations. Okay, let's get into this. Australia could become a poison portal for international radioactive waste under the AUKUS deal, a parliamentary inquiry into nuclear safety legislation has heard. New laws to establish a safety framework for Australia's planned nuclear powered submarines could also allow the US and UK to send waste here, Australia, while both of those countries are struggling to deal with their own waste as no long term high level waste facilities have been created. Interesting. The government introduced the Australian Naval Nuclear Power Safety Bill in November last year. If passed, it will establish a nuclear safety watchdog, allow for naval nuclear propulsion facilities to be created, including for storing or disposing of radioactive waste from AUKUS submarines. A second bill to enable the regulator to issue licenses was introduced at the same time. Both have been referred to a Senate inquiry, which is due to report on 26th of April. David Sweeney, the Australian Conservative Foundation's nuclear-free campaigner, said the issue of waste disposal was highly disturbing and that the AUKUS partners could see Australia as a little bit of a radioactive terror. Okay, sorry, 1 second. I just saw a silly thing pop up. Okay, sorry, my bad. My bad. The Greens defence spokesman, David Shoebridge, said HMS Dreadnought, gosh, these names, one of the UK's first nuclear submarines, had been rusting away since being decommissioned in 1980. You can go on Google Maps and look at them rusting away in real time, can't you? Shoebridge asked Australian Radiation Protection and Nuclear Safety Agency, RPANSA, Chief Regulatory Office, James Scott. Yes, there was no disposal pathway yet. There's no exact date, yada, yada, yada. So that was basically all about the waste. The waste. Reuters. What does Reuters have to say about this? Quick one. Quick one. US, Britain, Australia weigh expanding AUKUS security pact to deter China, FT says. I hate acronyms, but anyway. This needs to be zoomed in. My eyes. My eyes. There you go. London, April 7th. US, Britain, Australia set to begin talks. Blah, blah, blah. Country defense ministers will announce discussions on Monday on Pillar 2 of the pact, which commits the members to jointly developing quantum computing, undersea, hypersonic, artificial intelligence, and cyber technology. The newspaper reported on Saturday, citing people familiar with the situation. Yo, did you? Okay, let's read that list again. Okay. Quantum computing, undersea, hypersonic, artificial intelligence, and cyber technology. Okay, they're not considering expanding the first pillar. Or those are about the nuclear-powered attack submarines to Australia. AUKUS launched by 3 countries in 2023, efforts to push back against China's growing power in the Indo-Pacific region. China has called the AUKUS pact dangerous and warned it could spur a regional arms race. Okay. Joe Biden has sought to step up partnerships with US allies in Asia, including Japan and the Philippines, amid China's historic military buildup and its growing territorial assertiveness. Right. And then there's a little bit more repetition here from the FT article. In terms of analysis, obstacles for Japan, a spokesperson for the White House National Security Council and China's Foreign Ministry did not immediately respond to requests for comment on the FT report. A Japanese foreign ministry spokesman said the ministry cannot immediately comment. A British Defence Ministry spokesman also had no immediate comment. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles has said they would seek opportunities to engage close partners in AUKUS Pillar 2, and any involvement of more countries would be decided and announced by three partners, spokesperson from his office said. Okay, they're keen to have Japan in Pillar 2. Um, Japan has taken some steps, but not all of them. The senior US officials talking about what countries could bring to the project. Okay. So there's a trilateral summit on Thursday. And this was April 7th. So yeah, this is today, and there'll be a summit later on this week. So that's an interesting one to be aware of. Why not? Why not? Shouldn't we know what's going on behind the scenes of everything that's front and center, front line, stage, front of stage? Sorry. I think I've hit my limit. Kind of like got a little bit, what's the word? Glazed over there.